And if I had to give a percentage to the chance that Elder Scrolls 6 will be a good game, I would say it is 10%. I mean, I have just a very rock bottom expectation for this.
A percentage, I'm going to say 60%. I'm going to be better than 50-50.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the SideQuest Sages podcast. My name is Luke Tatum. I am the Sage of the Horadric Cube.
I love it. And I'm Corey Sins. I am the Sage of the Rainbow Road.
Very good. That course is so extremely long in Mario Kart World. All right, so today we are talking about Elder Scrolls 6. The great Todd Howard has descended from the heavens, and he has graced us with an interview. Not us, but he has.
No.
He has parted the clouds and spoken his wisdom, and this time the wisdom is he made a joke in an interview with IGN, and so I'm going to read from this. He says, just pretend we didn't announce it. It doesn't exist. No one's heard a word. And he laughs. That is his current stance on the Elder Scrolls 6, a game which was announced 8 years ago, 2018 at E3, 2018, I think it was 2018. And so basically fully 8 years ago, there has been a teaser trailer that showed absolutely nothing. They gave us a logo, and people have been convulsing, frothing at the mouth ever since. So, you know, what people want from this game and what it actually will become are probably different things. At least that's my take. I have, as a massive fan of Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim, I have soured considerably on Bethesda Game Studios in the past several years, as I think YouTube maybe in general has done, but I'm not blaming YouTube for making me grumpy about this stuff. I'm blaming the studio. Okay. It is very much the studio, and there's lots of things, lots of angles we could take with this, but I think the question we want to answer today is it even possible that Elder Scrolls 6 will be a good game? And where do you want to start?
Will it? I think based on just the little intro you gave, I think we should just change it to, are we even going to get a game? But I feel like we've been sitting in this chair for a long time. Going back to my first experience with Elder Scrolls was in middle school with Morrowind. And it was such a weird game for me. I'm actually in some Facebook groups, and people have talked about like these booklets and trying to read them and things like that. And I was at the point where I didn't read any booklets to understand things. Man, I just went straight into the game and played it. It was difficult, but looking back, it's not as difficult as everyone made it seem, is in my opinion. But
I'm looking at my
you got the
stack of stuff. I'm not going to dig for it, but I've got a lot of old, Elder Scrolls stuff here in my office, across the other opposite wall from where I sit. I look at every single day that I work, Mournhold map and the Vardenfell map for, the classic games. And then to my right over here on this wall is my Cyrodiil map. And I don't have a Skyrim map, but I do have the, 3 and 4 maps. And I love maps, I love lore, I love the environmental exploration. That's the thing that is just, that's why those games feel like home in some sense. Is this just massive exploratory, free world for you to play in. It's a sandbox to some extent. And it's just like, what has Bethesda done since Skyrim came out? They have released it over and over and over again, and their corporate practices have evolved. We have the infamous horse armor. A lot of people blame Oblivion and Todd Howard specifically because he's the face of Bethesda. for horse armor, and therefore for all microtransactions for every game ever since. you know, um, but it's like whatever it was, $5 or something for some gold armor on your horse that doesn't do anything. And it's like, you want it, pay up, in a heavily moddable game. But you can just make it yourself, like you but not everybody's a coder, not everybody's a modder. And then we have the creation club, and we have all these different things, that have sort of evolved from there. It's like, well, we want you to make community content, but we're going to take some of it and we're going to repackage the game, and we're going to resell the same game with community content in it. They don't fix bugs that have been in the creation engine forever. In some cases, they reintroduce old bugs. That was a big or a debacle with Fallout 4 and stuff. A bunch of mods just stopped working, and huge entire scenarios, multi-hour projects. It's like, okay, well, thanks.
That's unfortunate. I didn't hear about that. I know that there are times where they've done the updates and bricked certain things, but
it's just
that was pains to hear.
I could ramble just specifically about corporate history and some of that stuff. I have an old script somewhere for a video I was going to do about the decline of Bethesda. I have, probably a few thousand words written about that somewhere on my Google Drive.
Right.
But, the just beyond that, just beyond the monetization practices and some of those things, I just feel like Bethesda does not want to develop their ability to make good games. They just want to cash in as long as they can on the name of the studio. And, I did not like Fallout 4 more than I liked Fallout 3. I did not like Elder Scrolls Online more than any other MMO. Like it's kind of done with it pretty quick.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It is beautiful, but I could only look at the same copy and pasted building so many times before I was like, what is this? Like you may WoW, the magic of WoW when WoW first came out, that is not what that was. It was like, well, okay, cool. It's literally the same structure, just over and over and over and over and over, regardless of where you're at. This is what, Elven architecture looks like. Copy, copy, copy.
The same guy's been constructing for hundreds of years, and
that's right.
They get their own cookie cutter suburbia or whatever.
What happened to the Dwemer? They've been making the same thing over and over and over, and he's just over there. Like there he is.
He's still going at it with the Centurion robot. And what are some special things that you would love to see going forward that touched you in the different Elder Scrolls games that you think would make more successful, things that they need to get back to?
Yeah. Well, I really, really soured on Bethesda as a result of Starfield. Okay. I was not excited to play Starfield. The Elder Scrolls Online was whatever, is fine. I didn't have high expectations for that because it's an MMO, whatever. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and then I stopped playing it. Okay. But Starfield came out, and I had no interest in playing that game. There's nothing particularly exciting about it for me. And then I ended up getting it for free, as will happen from time to time with a piece of hardware. When I was building my work computer, I got a free copy of Starfield. I said, what the hell? I'll redeem the code.
Why not?
And so I think, and I am going to answer your question. I know you asked me about Elder Scrolls games, but the thing that I did not get in Starfield was any enjoyment out of any of the quest lines. Like all of the storyline stuff was just so boring. So unbelievably boring. And It's like, it's space. There's hundreds of planets. Give me something. Dude, I love space. I love No Man's Sky. I love Freelancer, the old, space sim. That doesn't even have a good storyline, but it's really fun. Like, you don't have to give me a whole lot for me to really like a space game. It's actually, I would say, more of a chore to give me a space game that I don't like. Okay. Like, you had to try to give me something bad when it comes to space exploration, because it's great. The thing that makes the Elder Scrolls so amazing is exploration. Space and exploration go together like
the final frontier.
Like French fries and salt, baby. I mean, it's like there ain't nothing that goes together better. And so it's just this sense of like, how did you do it this badly? When I played Starfield. And I have a written review of this and all the crazy bugs and stuff. And like, haha, funny. I think there's always been a haha, funny element of the bugginess of Bethesda games. And like, oh, my horse floated away. That's weird, or whatever. That even happens in The Witcher 3 and stuff. Like Roach, Geralt's horse is famous for just being on top of buildings and stuff. And it's like,
just hanging out.
It's so funny. But they've kind of embraced that, and it's funny. The thing with Bethesda is like, they act like they made the greatest game with no flaws all the time, and then they give you this like unbelievably buggy mess. It's perfect. It just works. The famous Todd Howard, "It just works" line.
Just works.
But Elder Scrolls, I have lots and lots and lots of things. And this is why I started with that huge intro. I have lots of things that I really distinctly love about Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim. Like moments, characters, towns, like and I'll just start listing stuff. But I don't have a single thing like that in Starfield. It just sucks. It's just boring. It's like the most generic, I hesitate to use the word AI slop, but it's like, who wrote this? I mean, seriously, it's not good. It just isn't good. And the progression and the game design is it. I'm not making this a Starfield video. Okay, we're talking about the Elder Scrolls. Morrowind. It's weird. You've got mushrooms and stuff growing everywhere. It's a completely unique type of environment. The city of Vivec, multiple large structures evenly spaced in kind of this like Venetian sort of way, but it's a weird alien sort of style. Vivec, the character, with his half and half skin coloration, and like the fact that you can attack any NPC in the game and it'll just give you that famous, continue on in the doomed world you've created error, or load your save, right? Like, oh, well, you messed it up. You can't beat the main game now. But you can do that, and it's this freedom. And Morrowind, I think people mischaracterize that game in particular by saying, like, well, it didn't really sell that well. Okay, but that is the reason that Bethesda is a major name in game development. The reason they're a huge deal is because Morrowind did well compared to their previous games.
Yep.
Like, it was like, oh my God, what is this? And it's unique and it's cool and you can make your own spells and all this stuff. But the enemy design, like, Dagoth and some of these characters, like, they're weird looking and different and crazy. And it's the Ashlands, it's like, it's just the real kind of setting around a volcano.
And not only that, they had a culture developed around that. They had the ash yams for food. They had to build their houses in specific ways. They had to live in specific ways because of the ash and everything. I thought that was so cool. And not only that, you had even on the small island of Morrowind, you had differences in ecology. You had, like you said, the mushroom area. Then you had like Balmora, which was more of like a desert kind of place, started kind of touching the ashlands and things like that. Just cool little touches like that. And in a completely different way than has been seen, they made up a ton of shit.
Yeah.
To do this, to bring this to the story. Fantastic.
And then you have Oblivion, And Oblivion is, it's always going to annoy me for the rest of forever that in the lore, the capital city, in Cyrodiil and all this is supposed to be like very tropical. It's supposed to be like a jungle, like Rome in the jungle. That's what it's supposed to be. And they didn't do that. They just kind of made it like, here's oak trees and stuff, like whatever. That's fine. It's still a very pretty game. I think that one has aged worse maybe than some of the others. Even Oblivion Remastered, like the Radiant AI and some of the stuff has just not aged well. It's like, the fact that there's only a couple of voice actors and stuff for a lot of the characters, and like the same guy is talking to himself about the latest rumors in this really disjointed way and stuff. Like there's issues. Oblivion has issues, okay, but it is fun, and everybody knows the arena in Oblivion. Everybody loves the arena questline. Everybody knows certain things about that game. Everybody likes to explore the Ayleid ruins. Everybody knows what an Oblivion gate looks like. There's cool stuff in there. It's really cool. And again, it's like different. It's not good versus evil in this kind of weird, like, it's not like they just took Christian theology and just slapped it in the game. You've got like different evil deities, and maybe they just have a desire that they're trying to satisfy. They're not necessarily like evil in the general sense. You have some deities that people kind of like, that are considered evil, like Azura and stuff like that. Meridia's beacon is a famous thing in Skyrim, right? Like everybody knows that a new hand touches the beacon. And there's just so much cool stuff. They have so much lore and so much. If you want to dig into it, there's all these books everywhere. Some of the quests are stupid, but a lot of the quests are cool and interesting. And the Dwemer, I guess we could talk about the Dwemer, right? The forgotten dwarf civilization that makes these automatons, that patrol the halls of the subterranean world still. And it's not just copy paste Lord of the Rings, which is what most fantasy is. Yeah, there's elves and orcs, but it's not just that, right? And so I love it. Ayleid Ruins is like a vibe. It's like a whole thing. I just want to be in that space sometimes, right?
That nice soft green glow.
And Skyrim, moving to that, right? Mm-hmm. It's a distinct area. This was, I would say, responsible for a decade-long cascade of Norse-inspired media. People were like, oh yeah, I forgot how cool Norse mythology and Norse weapons and Norse, stuff is, and the North, and, all of that.
That's actually, that's a cool point to make, that it wasn't even, it's not even real Norse. It's adjacent Norse. And even then it did such a good job portraying in its own fashion that it still encourages people to look into, history of, not just, for in Skyrim, but, in Norway and the Scandinavian countries and things like that. Just it's, they take a little bit here and there. And I think that's a huge asset to Elder Scrolls, is that they have such a diverse set of races and cultures, different, they have places that they haven't even gone to quite yet that they've talked about. So I think for me, they have so many different places they can go. Yeah. Already. They can still stay in familiar places, or I hate to say that, but because they did that with the Elder Scrolls Online, and it felt hollow to me.
Yeah.
I think it's just that there's such a difference between the MMOs, with Fallout 76 and it versus Fallout 4, and Skyrim versus Elder Scrolls Online and things like that. It's just two different kinds of games. They don't appeal to me, but they do to a lot of others. So I'm glad that other people are able to get more Elder Scrolls. It's just not for me.
Yeah. I definitely cashed in on my desire for some Morrowind nostalgia by going to Morrowind in Elder Scrolls Online, right? I think you have to pay or something. I've signed up for 1 month so I can get access to everything, just to check out a couple of spots I wanted to go. And but I didn't even finish the main quest line there. I was like, this is cool, but not enough. You know what I mean? It's insufficient. And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't need fan projects like Sky Oblivion and Skywind to remake the old games in the Skyrim engine in order to get a decent product out of that. You know what I mean? MMOs have problems. Elder Scrolls Online certainly has problems, but I will say is pretty good for an MMO, right? The thing though is all of these areas. I mean, the Sovngarde, the Elder Scrolls version of Valhalla, and stuff like that. There's so many cool things. You discover Blackreach for the first time, which kind of set people on this whole thing about having a hidden subterranean thing. I think still that to some degree, like Tears of the Kingdom having the totally, continent spanning subterranean area is kind of still a response to Blackreach and stuff. There's
so
cool.
Stuff.
Nirnroot. I mean, Nirnroot is awesome. It just makes me it just makes me nostalgic. Nirnroot
I'm hearing it
cool
right now.
Yeah. What's that?
Tinnitus, though.
Am I near water? And so
I hear you. I see you.
But all of those things are so cool. They're so cool. And so going into Elder Scrolls 6, I think you're right to question, will we even get the game ever? Right. Yeah. But it was announced in 2018 and it's nothing. It's nothing. And then Todd Howard a year or two ago he comes out and says, oh yeah, we've got playable builds. And it's like, no, you don't. Like if you got me to play that, it would be like, wow, what is this? It's like completely unplayable. But I have very little faith, I guess, at this point. A large degree to why I have that lack of faith is Starfield, but also we got Oblivion remastered in the interim. A huge infusion of cash for them. Just shadow drop, instant, like multi-million-dollar drop for them. And what is that game? It's exactly the same. It is not a like quality of life improvement, hugely fixed thing. There's a few updates. There are a few gameplay updates. Some of them are pretty weird, like the run animation. But they didn't even do it. They outsourced it to somebody else. Like, hey, we could probably make $100 million if we just got somebody else to make the graphics look better in Oblivion. And so they did. After re-releasing Skyrim 4 times. You know what I mean? It's like at some point the jig is up. You know what I mean? Like,
have they lost the confidence to put out something like that then? Maybe it is the time where they need to outsource it. They have all the IP. They have all, they don't really need to exist anymore necessarily. That sounds really, really harsh, but the fact is it's been established. There's so much lore that, it's the same thing. Like I don't need Star Wars to be owned by Disney anymore. Like we're done, I think, with a lot of that content. But there's so much great content that's out there in people's brains, and I would love to see that. And I really hope that, maybe Bethesda starts to think, maybe we need to figure out what our purpose is in this and get some other help. It's okay to say, yeah, we need help.
Well, there's so many people that are so passionate about the Elder Scrolls, even today. And I guess this is a good point to insert this. I was going to tell a quick story. So I briefly co-founded and ran while I was in college, which I'm a college dropout and proud of it. But I briefly ran a video game news and review website for a few years. And my team, other college age kids like myself, we got press badges to a couple of events and did some fun things. We got some interviews. We interviewed the girl who portrays the guardian angel character in the original Borderlands one time. That was our exclusive interview that we got. And, I talked to the guy who did the writing for Fallout 1 and 2. His name is escaping me right now, but I got to speak to him at one point. And so we went to QuakeCon a couple of times with press badges. QuakeCon is id Software, the inventors of the first-person shooter, right? Wolfenstein and Doom and Quake. Mm-hmm. They've had this recurring event in the Dallas area forever. I mean, it seems like it's forever. John Carmack gave away a Lamborghini, like his own personal Lamborghini in the 90s at one of these events and stuff. Super cool. And so there's lots of cool things about that. I'm not going to give a huge preface, but I was there when Todd Howard came out on stage. We were third row seats. Okay. He comes out on stage at QuakeCon. Bethesda had just recently partnered with the other studio. I'm completely spacing out. ZeniMax. Partner with ZeniMax. And so it's kind of a bigger thing, and they're kind of in the same umbrella with id Studios now. And so Todd Howard comes out on stage and he's presenting gameplay of Skyrim for like the first time. And people, I mean, the tension, the excitement is palpable. People are just freaking out. I'm excited. Everybody's excited. Todd Howard has an Xbox controller and he goes through like walking down from, oh my gosh, Helgen.
Yep.
He doesn't show the intro, but he, from Helgen down to the first town, Riverwood. And, and so he's kind of doing that whole thing. And then he skips ahead and he shows off a shout and gets clubbed by an ogre. And, it's great. It's hilarious. But a lady in the audience actually went into labor. She was so excited. And so that's kind of a fun story. That's why I wanted to bring it up. But
that's so funny.
True story. I didn't see that at the time. We heard about it later because I guess she was further back, but that's how attached people are to this brand.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we've moved from let's continue creating the best possible game that we can to let's keep cashing in on this thing until they won't let us print money with it anymore, And there was a sexual harassment scandal and stuff with the composer,
Jeremy Soule.
Soule. Thank you. I don't know why I'm blanking on all of this stuff today, but there's a lot of reasons that there's going to be some issues. So you don't have Jeremy Soule. He's not going to be writing the soundtrack. The soundtrack is a big part of the nostalgia that people have for the last 3 Elder Scrolls games, right? Now, the composers for ESO did a perfectly good job. There's a lot of good music in there, but it's very heavy on the atmospheric side. And I can't think of one song that I just go around and hum like I do the Elder Scrolls theme that has been around forever.
Standing Stones or
Standing Stones. Yep.
Ancient Stones is what it is. I think
Ancient
is one of my favorites.
You're right. Yes.
Ancient Stones and
my son used to fall asleep listening to that song. He loves that song. And
I have a friend who got married to the music to Whiterun.
Mm. I have an autographed copy of the soundtrack, dude. I mean, it's right behind me.
And it's really unfortunate that with, I don't know all the circumstances behind Jeremy, but the music still for me is so impactful, and I just have to separate the person from the music. And to the point I made earlier about there being a good base for their lore, they also have a good base for their music as well. And so people can take, it's established, can take some little pieces of that to still have it tie into what's going forward and have new artists, because there's so many great music artists out there that will now get a chance perhaps. So that could be the positive spin on that.
Right. I think I've got one more maybe point to make on this discussion. So the environment in which these games released, like the landscape of other games at the time, has a lot to do with public perception and whether or not it's a good game, quote unquote, and stuff like that. Because, Bethesda's not making games in a vacuum, and neither is anybody else. When you log on to Steam or you log on to Xbox, not that anybody is using an Xbox as their primary console anymore, since they don't know what they're doing with their brand, and that's a separate conversation. Or PlayStation or whatever. You're looking for something to play. People do not, generally speaking, like have a game for one console or a console for one game or a PC to play one game. There are exceptions, but generally you see what else is available. What is the relative price point of these different things? You know, how much enjoyment am I going to get out of it? You know, some of these things. And so when Morrowind comes out, like, whoa, amazing, revolutionary, this is insane. Oblivion, pretty much that again, right? Skyrim, not as much, because like it's kind of Oblivion but bigger and, you know, whatever, but it was very pretty and very compelling in the way that it was set and the interaction of the art, the music, and all of the things that we already touched on. And I don't think that today an Elder Scrolls game is going to be this groundbreaking, standalone, unique opportunity in the way that it once was. You have games that are massive open worlds coming out all the time. And each one of those may be 100+ hours of stuff. You know, Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei, or however you pronounce that one. Crimson Desert just came out or whatever. And, you know, I haven't played that, but it's huge. It's huge. There's a lot of games that are massive fantasy open world experiences that you can explore and get lost in for a long time. Do they have the same lore build up and the same history as the Elder Scrolls? Perhaps not. But it's not a given that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be the flagship title that advances the genre. You know what I mean? And I think they kind of just continue to bank on that. You know, from all the interviews and all the stuff, when Starfield came out, I'm sorry to bring it up again, but when Starfield came out, they were expecting everybody to just be tripping over themselves and like, oh my God, this is awesome. You can like go to different planets. And it's like, have you guys played any games in the last 30 years? I mean, like,
more to it than that.
People were very upset at how disjointed that experience is when a game like No Man's Sky or something has been around. Like, it's not old. I mean, it's not new. It is old. You know, it's been there. Like, did you look at the market at all before you tried to enter it? And I think the answer is no, right? They just don't care. They're like, well, it's just a money printing machine, you know. Bethesda, everybody loves Bethesda. They'll spend any amount of money, any number of times on a Bethesda title. So that's kind of my concern. And if I had to give a percentage to the chance that Elder Scrolls 6 will be a good game, I would say it is 10%. I mean, I have just a very rock bottom expectation for this. Whenever it comes out, I think they're going to fall flat on their face. What about you?
I tend to have a little bit more rose-colored lenses when I pick up things, and at least the things that I have special interests in. You know, I didn't have that many problems with Fallout 4.
Okay.
As there's a lot of people that I have legitimate concerns, and there were things that I didn't care for, but overall, I thought that was a good and enjoyable experience for me. I'm assuming that's probably what it's gonna land for me. It's gonna be a fun game to play. I've played Skyrim probably 6 times. I haven't played it, you know, full playthrough 6 times probably. I won't play it again for a long time until something else. It's more of kind of a protest on my side, and I'm not going to purchase it anymore. I purchased it twice. I don't need any more. This is the 2026 Game of the Year version of Skyrim to follow up with the 2027 Game of the Year's edition of Skyrim. So,
but we added more horse armor, Corey. We added more horse armor.
I'm not against them doing, you know, pay to play things like that. I'm not somebody who cares much for the aesthetics of things. and I won't pay for it, but
Yeah.
I might grind for something. I did a little bit of that with Star Wars, their Old Republic. We played that together a bit.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, I think if they stay true to the lore, if they give homage to like the Daedric princes and things like that, do some good stories with them, have a compelling main story, have some good factions that actually are meaningful. I think for me, a big thing I'd like to see going forward is actual consequences with having joined, the Fighters Guild, the Mages Guild, all these different, like, you can't be the grandmaster of everything without having some repercussions, some actual, limiting factors. But
you know what? It just made me think of like Palpatine. I am the Senate. Like, I'm every political figure in this country. Who do you think you're talking to?
Yeah, right. You have to, no, I'm going to put my hood on and I'm going to be this guy. And now I've got this hat. I'm the emperor now. And
you heard the rumors about the gray fox? That's me.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's the whole thing. We can have a whole episode about that too. Like, at what point do you need to have some mutually exclusive things? Because it's weird. It's weird if you play through all that stuff. Gosh, on and on and on and on. We easily have 20 episodes of Elder Scrolls content in us, I feel like. I have probably 2 episodes just about Seda Neen in Morrowind.
It's such a cool starting spot.
It is. And Silt Striders are like my favorite. But anyway, so no, I think it was a good discussion. I'm glad we kind of talked through that. Do you have a percentage though? Do you have a percentage?
I'm going to say 60%. I'm going to be better than 50-50.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right. I would love to have a good Elder Scrolls game. I really, really would. My expectation is not there at this point. So we'll see. Let me think here. I have a written review with screenshots from my playthrough of Starfield. If anyone would like to read that, I had a hell of a good time writing it. And oh my gosh, I did not have a good time playing the game. So it was way more fun to write an article about not liking the game than to actually play the game. But I have that over on my Paragraph blog, which I almost never update. And I can post that in the description box for this episode. So check that out if you would like. It's got some very funny screenshots in it. And if you want to join the Patreon, support the channel, like what we're doing here, new episodes every week, we are going to be starting a playthrough of the Game Boy Advance classic Golden Sun. I wish I could speak accurately. But Golden Sun and probably Golden Sun The Lost Age, the second game, since they go together. We'll be playing those and doing our commentary. I have no idea how many episodes that'll be, but we'll be prepping over the next few weeks and starting that here relatively soon. If you would like to join the Patreon as a free member, you can vote on future polls on which games we'll be playing. And if you're a paid member, then you can help us pick what games are on the polls, and you can get all kinds of other cool stuff in there as well, such as ad-free episodes, so you don't have to watch them on YouTube. But all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to find meaning in the stories everywhere you look. And no matter what you're going through right now, do not give up.